So hello everyone, in this audio class we will discuss the 20 most important questions and their answers from the chapter Atmospheric Circulation and Weather Systems. These questions will be very much important for your upcoming KVS and NVS PGT Geography interview. So let's get started with the question number 1. So what is atmospheric pressure and why is it important? So atmospheric pressure is the weight exerted by the column of air about a unit of area of the earth's surface. It is important because differences in atmospheric pressure create wind, and wind is the primary mechanism through which heat and moisture are redistributed across the earth. For example, during summer, northwestern India develops a low pressure area while the Indian Ocean has relatively high pressure. This pressure difference helps attract the southwest monsoon winds. Next question, why does atmospheric pressure decrease with height? So atmospheric pressure decreases with height because the density of air decreases upward. Near the earth's surface, the atmosphere is compressed by the weight of the air above it. At higher latitudes, there is less air above, so pressure becomes lower. For example, Darjeeling experiences a lower atmospheric pressure than Kolkata because it is located at a much higher elevation. Next question, how does pressure difference generate wind? So wind is the horizontal movement of air from areas of high pressure to areas of low pressure. So the greater the pressure difference, the stronger the wind. The force is known as the pressure gradient force. For example, cyclones over the Bay of Bengal develop because air rushes towards a low pressure center. Next question, what factors control the direction and velocity of wind? So there are three major forces control wind: pressure gradient force, Coriolis force and frictional force. The interaction of these forces determines both speed and direction. For example, over the oceans, friction is less, so winds generally move faster than over land. Next question, what is Coriolis force? So Coriolis force is an apparent force caused by the rotation of the earth. It deflects moving air to the right in the northern hemisphere and to the left in the southern hemisphere. It is maximum at the poles and absent at the equator. The northeast trade winds are actually deflected winds due to Coriolis force. Next question, why is Coriolis force absent at the equator? So at the equator, the angle of latitude is 0. Since Coriolis force is directly proportional to the latitude, so it becomes 0 at 0 latitude. Therefore, cyclones do not form exactly on the equator. For example, most tropical cyclones develop between 5° and 20° latitude rather than exactly at the equator. Next question, what is the ITCZ and why is it important? So ITCZ or Intertropical Convergence Zone is a low pressure belt near the equator where trade winds from both hemispheres converge. Strong solar heating causes air to rise, creating convectional currents. It plays a crucial role in global circulation and monsoon development. For example, during summer, ITCZ shifts northward towards the Ganga plain and helps establish the Indian monsoon. Next question, what is the Hadley cell? So Hadley cell is a tropical circulation system. Air rises near the equator, moves poleward at higher altitudes, sinks near 30° latitude, returns toward the equator as trade winds. This completes a circulation loop. For example, the trade winds that influence tropical climates are part of Hadley cell circulation. Next question, why are subtropical deserts found around 30° latitude? So at around 30° latitude, air descending from the Hadley cell becomes warm and dry. Descending air suppresses cloud formation and rainfall. Therefore, deserts develop. For example, Sahara Desert, Arabian Desert, Thar Desert, etc. Next question, what is a tropical cyclone? So, a tropical cyclone is an intense low pressure system that develops over warm tropical oceans. It is characterized by strong winds, heavy rainfall, storm surge. For example, cyclones Amphan and Yash affected West Bengal significantly. Next question, what conditions are necessary for tropical cyclone formation? So, sea surface temperature above 27 degrees Celsius, Coriolis force, low vertical wind shear, pre-existing low pressure area, upper air divergence. Without these conditions, cyclones cannot intensify. Next question, why are tropical cyclones more common in Bay of Bengal than the Arabian Sea? So, the Bay of Bengal generally has higher sea surface temperature, greater moisture availability, more favorable low pressure disturbances, hence cyclones form more frequently. For example, Amphan, Ayla, Yash, Bulbul, etc. So, the next question, what is humidity? So, humidity is the amount of water vapor present in the atmosphere. Water vapor is an important component because it influences clouds, rainfall and weather. For example, Kolkata experiences high humidity during the monsoon season. Next question, what is the difference between absolute humidity and relative humidity? So, absolute humidity is the actual amount of water vapor present in a unit volume of air. On the other hand, the relative humidity is the percentage of water vapor present compared to the maximum amount of air can hold at that temperature. Whereas weather forecasts usually use relative humidity because it indicates human comfort levels. Next question, why do we feel uncomfortable during the monsoon season? So, during monsoon, relative humidity becomes very high. Sweat cannot evaporate efficiently. As a result, the body loses heat slowly and we feel sticky and uncomfortable. For example, Kolkata often experiences relative humidity above 80% during the monsoon. Next question, what is dew point? So, dew point is the temperature at which air becomes saturated and condensation begins. When air cools to the dew point, water vapor changes into liquid droplets. Next question, what are the necessary conditions for dew formation? So, clear sky, calm air, high relative humidity, long nights, temperature falling to the dew point. For example, winter mornings in rural West Bengal often show dew on grass and crops. Next question, how are clouds formed? So, clouds form when moist air rises, cools and condenses around tiny dust particles called condensation nuclei. These condensed droplets collectively form clouds. For example, during summer afternoons, strong heating often produces cumulus clouds. Next question, explain the three major types of rainfall. So, there is convectional rainfall. Strong heating causes warm moist air to rise and cooling leads to condensation and rainfall. For example, equatorial region. Next is orographic rainfall, that is moist air is forced to rise over mountains. Cooling causes rainfall on the windward side. For example, Western Ghats receive heavy rainfall from the Arabian Sea branch of the monsoon. Next question, next is cyclonic rainfall. So, cyclonic rainfall occurs when the air masses meet around a low pressure system. For example, rainfall associated with Bay of Bengal cyclones. So, the next question, and this is the last question for today. Why does Cherrapunji receive very heavy rainfall? So, Cherrapunji receives heavy rainfall mainly because of orographic effect. Moist monsoon winds from Bay of Bengal are forced to rise along the Khasi hills. The air cools, condenses and produces intense rainfall. So, Cherrapunji demonstrates how relief can modify atmospheric circulation and significantly increase precipitation. So there is a final tip. So there is atmospheric pressure. What is atmospheric pressure? Atmospheric pressure is the weight of the air. Pressure differences generate wind through pressure gradient force. This mechanism drives atmospheric circulation. A good Indian example is the southwest monsoon, which develops due to pressure differences between land and sea. So thanks for listening. Keep listening for further audio classes. Thank you.